Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Chinuch Hashkafa message. It's Parshas Eikev. Parshas Eikev, there's a concept and a word that is so powerful and lends itself to such good discussion with our children in terms of the values that we want to instill in them of good character and Yiras Shamayim. So it's very famous. The word Eikev itself, we find difficult to understand what the Torah exactly means when it says Eikev. The Torah promises us, V'hoyo Eikev Tishmu, and it will be, if we listen to the Torah, and Hashem will keep His covenant and His promise, and so on and so forth. But what does the word Eikev mean? What is the Torah referring to? So we have a number of different pirushim, and here are some, and they're interesting, and they could make for good discussion and interesting discussion, but yet very valuable discussion. Rashi says, of course, the famous idea, that Eikev refers to the heel, and is talking about mitzvahs, she'odom dosh ba'akev, mitzvahs that people trample on with their heel. Now this in itself could mean two things. Sometimes it's explained, we're talking about the mitzvahs that people just don't treat with the proper stringency, because they don't think it's that important, whether it could be a little kashrus issue, or it could be maybe talking in davening, or whatever the type of mitzvah. Maybe people don't think is that important, whatever halacha, that just because it's a detail, they don't think it's important, so we tend to sort of just trample upon it. Or the way it's sometimes explained, it's actually referring to those mitzvahs that are, everyone understands they're important, but they're difficult to keep because they don't make sense, like the chukim, for example, which Rashi says in Parshas Chukas that we get scoffed at and laughed at for doing things that we don't understand. So that's a different type of understanding, the mitzvahs that are trampled upon. That's one idea in the word Eikev. The Balaturim says, an interesting shot, the Balaturim says, Eikev comes from the word kva. Asay toirascha kva, make your Torah permanent. To have permanent times to learn Torah. That Torah is not seen as a temporary thing you learn once in a while when you can, but it's permanent, sustainable. The third thing that he says is that Eikev comes from the word heel, which the Balaturim says is a symbol of anova, it's a symbol of humility, being humble. So that's a beautiful Dvar Torah, but so many lessons that we can use this Vart to use as a conversation with our children. First of all, to talk about what the kind of mitzvahs are that people seem to trample upon, and how that's not appropriate because Hashem really wants us to view all the mitzvahs equally. There might be mitzvahs that are more strict or less strict, or there might be mitzvahs that we understand and we don't understand, but in terms of our commitment to Hashem, whatever He tells us to do is His ratzon, it's His will. And therefore we need to keep it with tremendous dedication, with tremendous importance, with tremendous Yiras Shamayim. Second of all, we have the idea of kva, torascha kva, making Torah permanent. That's such an important thing to talk about, how learning is not just enough to learn. We have to have times where we learn that it's not negotiable. That becomes part of our routine. Just like people eat every day, we need to learn every day. And of course, the idea of Eikev being bitter, being humility, as the Balaturim says. This is an incredibly important concept. Maybe we don't talk about it enough. The idea of making room for other people. The idea of building character, building midas tovas, and most of midas tovas does not only mean to do kindness. Sometimes people do kindness with others because they like to look good. I mean, it's always good. Kindness, tzedakah is always a good thing. But it's not enough just to be kind to other people. Because we know that there are many people who are kind but find it difficult to have relationships and get on with people because they don't like to give space and room to others. They don't like when others are better than them. They don't like when others have what they don't have, and so on and so forth. So the concept of talking about, in a child's way, talking about anova, talking about humility, not taking ourselves so seriously, making room for others. It's not a weakness to agree with someone else, not a weakness to be mevater and to give up or to give in so as someone else could partake and have and enjoy things that we can enjoy, and so on and so forth. There's so much to talk about, of course, in that midah. These are not weaknesses, these are strengths. And that discussion with children, and it shouldn't only be one discussion, this concept of making room for others and being humble is so important because it will be so important to their future, the way their future relationships with friends, their future relationship with the family, their future relationship with their spouse, and so on and so forth. So just the one word Eikev has so much in it, and we can share so much and discuss so much. But of course, as we always say, we have to also reflect as parents, are we setting examples? Do our children see us having fixed times to learn Torah, which are not negotiable? Which we don't get up and be distracted and check WhatsApps and do other things in the middle? Do we have times we go out to give a shir? Are we talking about Yiras Shamayim, or do they see us being careful in little things, like maybe stopping and making a bracha a little bit slower, about not talking in the middle of davening and so on? And of course, do they see us being respectful to others? Do they see us showing, expressing, manifesting humility? These are things that we have these discussions, we obviously have to talk about and reflect ourselves if we are setting the right example. Have a good day and a good Shabbos.